Ever wondered if your advertising dollar is really working for you? If your ad would have been here, you and more than 4 million people would be listening to it right now. Contact ads at xzoneradiotv.com.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
In the late night hours when the world's asleep, Rob McConnell's voice echoes secrets to keep. From Roswell's whispers to tales of the sky, on the X Zone Radio, we learn to fly high. With every new guest, the story unfolds, from abductees' tales to the mysteries told. Government cover-ups, they're deep and they're wide, but we're on a quest with the truth as our guide. Oh, journey through the X Zone, the cosmos we roam, searching for answers beyond our earthly home. Are we alone in the dark, or watching from afar in the heart of the night? We're reaching for stars. They say there's a base where the secrets...
Welcome back, everyone. This is the X Zone. I'm Rob McConnell. You're listening to us on the CanCom Broadcast Network and streaming us on by our good friends right here in St. Catharines, your hometown radio, Classic 1220 CFAJ AM, and they stream us at classic1220.ca. My guest this hour is Carter Buschardt, and we're going to be talking about alien abduction. When he was abducted at the age of 8 in 1995, he found out by accident during a past life regression in 2004. For 64 years, he lived with his wife with zero knowledge of an abduction. He was abducted as recently as 2022. He's 74 years young now, and he's been regressed 8 times, twice by Dolores Cannon. Joining me now is Carter Buschardt. And Carter, welcome to the X Zone.
Well, thanks, Rob. Thanks for having me.
Tell us your story. You know, this alien abductions.
It's bizarre. I found out in 2004. I'm not sure with the 1990, but I found out in 2004. When my wife and I and another couple innocently we were sitting around one Friday night, we decided we wanted to know if we had past lives. Mm-hmm. And we all believed we had no proof. So back in 2004, you could still look up in a phone book, because I still had one. And I found a hypnotic regressionist. So we made an appointment the next day, Saturday, and we drove out there, and real nice lady. She had a studio in a barn, her husband and her farm, and they had a big maze outside. You could go out and walk around and meditate and get relaxed and become one with your thoughts and feelings and all that stuff. And so my wife went first. She couldn't go under. The other couple, Nancy went under. She had 2 very interesting lives. Her husband, Steve, he went under. He had 1 really interesting life. I went down. It was my turn. And I couldn't go under. I was struggling. I was squirming. I was fidgeting. And finally, I got under. And I immediately started screaming and yelling, "What the heck are you doing to me? Get your hands off of me." I was talking like my little 8-year-old self, and at the time I was, 53 when this happened. Right. So I started talking like a little kid. I said a lot of bad words. I was just cussing and screaming. "What are you doing to me? What are you doing to my friend?" Because we had been taken together. I had no idea any of this happened. Nobody did. So I wake up and I've got tears running down my face. I'm just bawling and I'm looking around and everyone's staring at me with their mouths wide open, just looking at me, including the regressionist. And so that's how I found out that I'd been abducted as a child.
What can you recall about your first abduction?
Well, regression wise, my first abduction, my friend and I, Craig, we were riding our bikes, Dallas, Texas, hot summer day, mid-July, right in front of my house. We ran a stop sign. We had brand new bikes. We ran a stop sign, and this car blew by us, as it should have, because it had the right of way. And you could feel the wind moving our shirts. I mean, it was that close. And we just thought we had a close encounter with a car. We had no idea. But then I come to find out when I was regressed that this car, which was a blue Buick, 1951 Buick Roadmaster, almost hit us. And we were both taken on board at the exact same time. Craig and I were both taken on the craft.
So am I correct in understanding that what you believed was a car was actually a craft?
Yeah.
Okay.
Screen memories. I'm sure you're familiar with screen memories.
Yeah.
So here's how this very cleverly worked. It was a blue 1951 Buick Roadmaster. My grandparents in Houston, Texas had a blue 1951 Buick Roadmaster. They never drove it because by the time I got to know them, they were too old to drive. So the car just sat in the garage. Beautiful car. I loved it. It was a beautiful car. So that's a screen memory to keep us from actually seeing the craft, which during another regression, we found out that that was not a 51 Buick. It was a spacecraft. And I did see it later on a couple of occasions, the very one that took us. Ironically, 2 or 3 weeks before our regression, my wife and I decided we wanted to restore old cars. I was a real estate agent at the time. I had a couple extra bucks laying around. So we thought we'd, buy a car. Guess what car we bought? A 1951 Buick Roadmaster out of Chicago. It was black. We were going to restore it. 2 weeks later, I found out I'm abducted. And the screen memory was a blue 51 Buick Roadmaster. Picked especially because my grandparents had one. And I would relate to that quite easily. And it would obfuscate what really happened. If you're familiar with screen memories, you know, it didn't take but a second to get you off track. Oh, that was a car. Oh, that wasn't a craft. That was a car. Oh, how silly of me. So, okay, well, we almost got hit by a car. Stupid kids die a stupid death. Oh, well. So they had already picked my brain and knew my grandparents had a car of that nature, and they could make me forget that we saw a craft.
Now, what did your friend recall, or has your friend even gone through, hypnosis to tell?
Well,
what about him?
Well, I went to school with this kid.
Okay.
I will remember it very distinctly. I couldn't find him, because, by the time I had discovered I was abducted, I started looking for him. I thought, well, maybe he's still back in Dallas, Texas. Well, he wasn't. I found 11 people with the same name as him. Craig, I won't say the last name. The reason we were friends is because we had the same birthday, September 16th, 1951. He was born September 16th, 1951. I finally tracked the guy down. He's living in California. He claimed to know nothing about it. He didn't know me. He didn't know anything about any. I don't know who you are, what you're calling about. I don't know anything. I said, well, let me ask you a couple of questions. You have the same birthday as me, September 16th, 1951. Oh, really? Yeah, that's why we were friends. I don't remember you. I don't know anything. I don't know who you are. You and I were friends. We hung out in Dallas, Texas, in my neighborhood. We burned down by accident back half of your parents' one-car garage shooting fireworks. You don't remember that? No. I have no idea what you're talking about. I said, Craig, okay, let me ask you this. Have you ever been hypnotized? Pregnant pause. Now, this conversation went on for 20 minutes. If I called you, Rob, and I'm going, hey, you and I were abducted by aliens 40 years ago. Do you remember that? Would you like have a long conversation, or would you hang up?
I'd kind of have a long conversation because you're talking to me, but maybe somebody who is not.
Go, you're nuts.
Yeah.
Buddy. So I said, have you ever been hypnotized? And he said, well, I'm not sure why you asked, but yes, I've been hypnotized a couple of times. And what were the results? Well, I don't really think I believed in the science. I didn't get anything out of it. I was hypnotized, but I was like, I woke up and went, that's it. I didn't find anything out about myself. So here I am calling a guy out of the blue. He's been hypnotized. He's got the same birthday as me. He rejects the notion that we were friends. We lived in the same neighborhood. And then we finally hang up. I left him a message on Facebook, which he never uses that page. He looked like he hadn't used it in a couple of years. So he denied it. We hung up, and that was it. I know it was him. How easy or how difficult is it to find a guy born on the same day, had a relationship with you, and was hypnotized? I mean, it doesn't make sense. My impression was that his screen memories were still in place. Mine were wearing off, had been for several years. I was seeing and experiencing things that I experienced as a child. I forgot all about them, and then I started remembering them again.
Carter, we're going to have to take a pause here. I have to take my first break in Exonation. Carter Buschardt is our special guest, and we'll both return on the other side of this break as we continue here on the CanCon Broadcast Network, streaming on classic1220.ca. Don't go away.
Government cover-ups, they're deep and they're wide, but we're on a quest with the truth as our guide. Oh, journey through the X-Zone, the cosmos we roam, searching for answers beyond our earthly home. Are we alone in the dark, or watching from afar in the heart of the night? We're reaching for stars. They say there's a base where the secrets.
Exonation, our guest this hour is Carter Buschardt. We're talking about his alien abduction experience. And how did you feel after you had your first recession session and this abduction was discovered?
Well, I was actually not shocked. Because as a child, I kind of knew that there were other things in the world. I don't know how I knew. I just knew there were other things going on in the world, life on other planets, Sasquatch. But when I saw In Search of with Leonard Nimoy, and the first time I ever saw anything about Sasquatch was the Patterson-Gimlin film on In Search of. And when I saw that, I was a kid, I don't know, 13 or so, I went, oh, that's real. That's real. They're real. I just knew they were real. So I had had clues my entire life, and I just thought I was having weird dreams as a kid. And so when I got regressed and it started filling in the blanks of memories that I had as a child, I had no idea, of course. But I used to see little gray robots walking down the hall in the bedroom of our home. And I was on the top bunk of my bed, and my brother was on the bottom bunk. And every now and then I would see little gray robots walking from the direction of my parents' bedroom, walking down the hall, kind of methodically, robotically, like they were kind of marching almost in unison, but there were, I don't know, a half a dozen of them. And they would always walk by my room.
Mm-hmm.
On occasion, they would walk back and double back and come into my room. And then everything kind of went blank. So I was seeing things, but not equating it with anything until I got regressed. As a child, I was seeing a lot of weird things. And my mom and I both believed, well, you're just eating too much candy, too much crap before you go to bed. Stop that. And you'll quit seeing and hearing things. So, okay. Well, it didn't work. So, but it filled in a lot of blanks in my life. You know, weird events, weird people, weird sightings, weird memories that I really couldn't put my finger on. So it told me. And as I got further into the regressions, especially with Dolores Cannon, you're familiar with Dolores Cannon, I guess.
Oh, definitely. She's been on the show a few times.
Yeah, she was awesome.
She
awesome.
is. Yeah.
Yeah, I went under with her in 2005 and 2010.
Mm-hmm.
She passed away in 2014. But a great lady, just like a grandma. She would chastise me for losing my focus during the session and things like that, because I was all over the place. But it was just a marvel. I have all my tapes. All my sessions were recorded. I have all the cassette tapes. And I took them all and turned them into Word documents. Then I ended up with a book, Baptized by Abduction. It chronicles all my regressions. And it's fascinating to me. And sometimes when I'm reading it, I can't believe some of this was actually happening to me. But it did.
Well, why do you think you were selected to have an alien abduction?
Well, I was taken by accident the first time. My buddy Craig had been taken many, many times, according to the regression, my very first regression. He'd been taken many times. And so when they took he and I together, it was an accident. And they said, we had to take you because you would have been killed if we didn't, because we have to demoleculize you and break you down into just molecules and then reassemble you as you get in the craft. And you guys were so close together, we couldn't take one without taking both. So we took you with your friend Craig. And they took me. After the first time, they told me that you had what we wanted. I was used for hybridization. So was Craig. He'd been used for hybridization. And so that's why I kept getting retaken. Every time they could, they took me. They took me off my paper route. They took me because I had a morning, I was up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning throwing a paper out, a little kid. So they would take me. I had no idea. Take me when I was fishing. Me and Craig were fishing at Joe's Creek in Dallas, Texas.
Was Craig always taken with you?
Many, many times, yeah. He was. There was a couple other kids in my neighborhood. Robert. His birthday was, guess what? September 16th, 1951. if you want great experiments and successful results, all your subjects are the same physiologically, same exact age, same birth date, same everything, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant males. And what better testing could you have than three people with you're going to get the same results from, if you test one guy, you're going to probably get the same results from the other two because they got the same physiology, same birthday, same everything.
You were saying that you and your friend were used for hybridization. Explain that to the audience.
Well, hybridization. So they're making alien children using our DNA. They called it melding and meshing. Hybridization was a term used, I think, in my 6th or 7th. But it's the same thing. Melding and meshing was the word that these aliens used to describe the hybridization process. And they kept telling me, you had what we liked. You had what we wanted. So we kept coming back.
And what was it you had that they liked and they wanted?
Gosh, I don't know. I'm quite handsome.
Okay.
I really don't know. It was my DNA, my physio, my blood, my bone, my makeup. They never really got into it, but I do have hybrid children running around space somewhere. Never saw one, was never introduced to one. But they just said whatever my DNA makeup was right in line with what they needed and wanted. They felt very fortuitous that they got us together.
Where were these aliens from, and why did they have to go around the universe looking for subjects that they could clone from?
Well, I was taken to Saturn. I was taken to the rings of Saturn. So I don't think they were from Saturn. I never found out where they were from. I was far more interested in why I was taken and what they were going to do to me, and would I ever have a chance to see or meet one of my offspring or something that was allegedly made using my DNA. And they never really answered that. Very vague about it. They never said one way or the other why I couldn't or they wouldn't allow me to see them.
How long would these abduction experiences last?
It felt like an hour or two, but as you know, an hour could be 5 minutes or 10 minutes in measured in our linear time. It felt like 30 minutes to an hour because a lot was going on there. They were doing something to Craig when the very first abduction. I was freaking out because he was screaming, he was bleeding from his neck, and they were doing something to him. And I'm sitting there, I'm in a pod. They got me in a pod. I'm watching this. I'm going, and I start freaking because I'm next. He's screaming and yelling and he's bleeding. I'm going, I'm next in line. I don't like the looks of this. So I started screaming. And they had me in a pod to restrain me. And they let me out finally because I was making such a commotion. And they sliced it open with it's the first time I ever saw this, a red laser beam came out of his finger. I don't remember if they were holding an instrument or it was self-generated from their hands or their finger, but they just ran it down the side of the pod and I fell out on the floor because I was basically in bondage, tied up because I was a little kid. I was freaking out.
Sure.
I didn't know what was going on. I thought you were going to kill me, and so they restrained me because I was going bat, crazy.
How many times do you believe you've been abducted? And when was the last time?
I would say, I'm guessing at least 50 times, maybe more. The last time that I know they came to my home here in Liberty, Missouri was 2022. And do we have time for me to go over this?
We're coming close. I've got about a minute and a half before we have to go for a break.
Well, they came to my house and I felt something trying to reach under my butt, reach under my thighs, and reach under my knees or my calves, and were trying to pick me up out of bed. And my wife got up and went to the bathroom. The whole room was lit. I could see clearly. It was like daylight. And long story short, they kept trying to pick me up. There was hands sliding under me from both directions, left and right. I'm going, boy, the people on the left got some really long arms because that's like 4 foot. It's a king size bed. So they were trying to lift me out of the bed. And when my wife got through in the bathroom, she flushed the toilet, turned off the light, and they dropped me. And I told her when she came out, did you see what was going on? Did you see who's in here? What was going on? And she told me, you're just lucid dreaming. There's nobody here. There's nothing here. You're just lucid dreaming. No. Yeah, and she would have none of it. But that was the last time I know they came here to visit me. Now, I've been fixed, so I can't produce children. So I don't think they needed me for that. But DNA is DNA. They don't need you to, have an active.
Sure.
They just need your DNA. So the fact that I'd had gotten fixed when I was in my early 40s after I got divorced. So.
All right, we've got to take that break, so please hold on. Fascinating story.
All right.
Exonation, our guest is Carter Buschardt, and we'll be back on the other side talking more about his personal experience with an alien abduction. I'm Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone, and you're listening to us on the CanCom Broadcast Network and streaming us from the studios of Classic 1220 CFAJ AM right here in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada at classic1220.ca. We're talking about alien abductions this hour here in the X Zone with our special guest, Carter Buschardt. And Carter, do you remember anything about the craft that you were taken to?
Yeah. There was a couple of different craft. The one that initially took me, I ended up seeing it a few months later when they came again. It was, I don't know if you've seen this painting that is from the probably 1400s, 1300s. It shows this kind of like a long cylindrical, it looks like a Christmas ornament, but it's on its side. It's real big and bulbous on one end, and it kind of shrinks down to just a point on the other. When I see it, I was thinking Christmas ornament, because that's what it looked like. But the other one was just a standard cylindrical, the round with a flying saucer. It was your standard flying saucer. Those are the two craft that I remember taking us. I was taken while I was sleeping most of the time. At times I was taken on my paper route. I was taken from my fishing hole where me and my friends were fishing. I remember the craft hovering above the trees, watching us, and then it happened. But it was two crafts basically that were, over and over and over and over. I saw this one too.
Now, did the occupants of the craft communicate with you telepathically or verbally?
Both. But it was actually kind of funny in that I was having some rather intelligent conversations with them, verbally. As I was they were talking to me, and one of the things they kept telling me, besides that I had what they wanted, was that because I'm a public person, they realize I want to tell the world. I've written 5 Sasquatch books, and I've got my alien book. So I'm a public person, and they don't like that. So we're going to have to block some of the remembrances until it's time for you to know, because we don't want you talking about certain things before it's time, whatever that meant. So I'm able to access it during regressions, but I don't recall them just like walking down the street. I go, oh, God, that's right. 1981, I don't remember anything like that. I have to be under, because they have blocked, and they told me they were going to block my recall because they want me to tell the world when they agree that it's time, and it's not time yet.
Do you think the fact that you've written books about Sasquatch had anything to do with your abduction, or were the books on Sasquatch a result from your abduction experiences?
I would say probably more likely a result of my abduction experiences, because, again, when I saw that film, In Search of, the film, I was 13 or 14. I'd already been being taken for 7 years prior to that. So I probably had some innate belief in all things paranormal. I don't recall, but I do recall seeing that film and just going, oh yeah, that's real. Can't wait. I mean, it was just like, oh, that's cool. I was like, not even shocked. I was like, oh, that's real. You know, it was just that simple. It was just, oh, that's real. And, sure enough, I got into research not knowing about my abduction until I had been regressed. And then I had just started my research into Sasquatch, and then I found out I'd been taken. So it was just like, oh, okay, there's the connection. I can't think of any other reason why I would have just suddenly decided to delve into it.
So now that you've had the past regression and you realize that you've been abducted, how do they react to you? Now that you know that the secret's out, that you know that they've been abducting you, and that veil of forgetfulness that they implanted in you has been broken?
Well, the funny thing is, a good question. I told them while we were talking, and I was under, that, you guys have screen memories on things, and your screen memories are failing. They're wearing off. And some of the things you want me to forget, it's common knowledge in the world. Travel to other planets, the Greys, the Nordics, the reptilians, all of these, all of that stuff was wearing off. So I was starting to remember it. I said, it's so stupid of you guys. That's what I told them to keep trying to wash my mind, because your stuff is, everybody and their mother knows most of your technology or is aware of it. And for you to keep trying to make me forget about it, it's ridiculous, because your memories have already worn off. Your screen memories are wearing off. I'm starting to remember stuff. And so it's kind of funny. You're kind of wasting your time with that. Maybe not with other people, but with me you are, because it's not working anymore.
Can you describe the beings you've encountered? What did they look like?
Well, I encountered a reptilian. I encountered the larger Greys, not the robotics, a little bitty, the grunts. They're the robots. They're the hybrids. The little Greys, the little 3 or 4 footers. They are hybrids. They are part robotic and part ET, and they do all the heavy lifting, all the grunt work for the real Greys, who are our height, 5-6 feet tall. So I saw one who was disguised. It was so very funny, like the face that you see with, it's one of the other groups. It looks like a Salvador Dali.
Okay.
It looked like Salvador Dali, but that's also the face of one of the groups now that's active, wanting to take over the world. I forget who they are, but so I saw, the Greys, both Greys, the reptilian, and saw a Nordic. I did not see any Sasquatch. So I saw 4 or 5 different races there, not all at the same time. There was 2 or 3 one session. There would be another one. Sometimes there'd be just one. It was kind of all over the place as far as the ones I saw. But I saw 4 or 5 of the main species.
So inside the craft, can you recall anything about it?
Yeah, the craft. I was in like a compartmentalized area, and there was a screen. It was like cheesecloth. I could see through it, and that's why I could see what they were doing to Craig. And so I could see through that. I could see shadows of the ETs that were in there. I didn't see them clearly because it was like we're looking through a mesh, but it was very white, very clinical, just like you see. Oh, I remember another ET I saw was the creature from the Outer Limits. Remember David McConnell, the big bulbous head, the guy that was in Man from U.N.C.L.E.?
Yeah, I remember David McConnell. Yeah.
Yeah, he played this part of this alien that had a huge head and veins just sticking out everywhere. And I saw that one as well on one of my regressions. I forgot about that one.
Do you think it's possible that during the time that you were aboard the craft, or at the time that you were with the ETs, that they allowed you to picture them as some aliens that you may have seen on TV, so that you had a point of reference when communicating with them?
Well, it could be, the David McConnell one I remember seeing on TV. I never saw a reptilian ever. The day after, this is very unique. The day after I was regressed the first time, and we went back actually the next day on Sunday, just my wife and I, to make sure this was all real. I drew an awesome drawing of a reptilian, very, very good. And I'm not a good artist, but it was like I was automatic writing. I woke up the next day, I think it was on a Monday, and I drew it. It was beautiful. I scanned it and emailed it to the regressionist. And she goes, I can't help you. I am not qualified. It turns out she had just gotten her hypnosis license. We were like her fourth or fifth customer. And what does she get? An alien abduction from a kid who's 7 years old, screaming bloody murder, and I'm 50 years old, acting like a 7-year-old kid. She was as freaked out as we were. And she said, I cannot help you. I am not qualified. I don't know anything about this. You'll have to find somebody else.
All right, stand by, Carter. We have to take our final break for this hour. And Exo Nation, our guest this hour is Carter Buschardt. And he's the author of a very interesting book. And when we come back, we're going to talk to him about his book, Baptized by Abduction. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and you're listening to us on the CanCon Broadcast Network and through the facilities of your hometown radio, Classic 1220 CFAJ, where we are broadcast from 10 p.m. until midnight, Monday through Friday, from 10 to midnight. They stream us around the world on classic1220.ca, and I'll be back on the other side as we wrap up this hour with our guest. And don't forget, certain affiliates carry the first 2 hours of the show. Other affiliates carry the entire 3 hours. Dare to believe, dare to be heard here in the X Zone. Are you a skeptic or are you a believer? Send me an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. We'll be back. Don't go away. Carter Buschardt is our guest. And Carter, let's talk about Bigfoot if we can for a few minutes, because I know that you've written a number of books on that. And what was it that brought you to the decision that you were going to research and write books about Sasquatch? Was it seeing that In Search of episode when you saw the Gimlin-Patterson film?
Yeah, that started the interest right there. I saw that, and like I told you, I knew that was real.
Right.
I just knew it. So, but I got into it by a very bizarre turn of events. My wife and I decided to go to Washington State to go look for Sasquatch, just to see. You know, I knew it was out there and read about it, heard about it like everybody else. We go out there, and it turns out that year they legalized marijuana in Washington State. And we were told to be very, very careful as we walked through the woods, because there were illegal growers with guns still protecting their territory, even though their territory was illegal now that it was legalized. So we went out hiking after renting a cabin in the woods. We went out hiking, and I had to relieve myself. Went by a tree to do my relieving, and at the bottom of the tree, chained to the tree, was an ammo box. I'm going, oh God, this is somebody's stash. We're going to get shot. We're going to get killed. Now, I just knew it. You know, I stepped, this is the wrong place to be at the wrong time. Well, it turns out it was geocache. You familiar with that?
No, I'm not.
Geocache is a worldwide game where you are given geographic.
Right. I'm sorry. I thought you said geocache, but
Yeah,
geocache. Yes.
geocache.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know the game.
Yes.
So anyway, so you go find the location and you take something out of a box and you leave something and you take something out, something about you, and then you sign your name on there. Carter was here and whatever year it was, and you leave. Well, I took a card, a business card right off the top, and it was a Sasquatch researcher. I'm going, this is supposed to happen, baby, because it was exactly what I wanted. So get home, call the guy. I get hooked up with the Bigfoot group here in Missouri. I go on an expedition. Within a year, I'm doing reports and I'm leading expeditions. They fired the guy that they had and got me. Actually, he'd been fired twice and I took over for him twice. So that started my journey. And I started doing reports, and the people I was interviewing weren't telling me everything, and I could tell. And long story short, they were kind of feeling me out because they've been ridiculed and scoffed at for so many years. They just don't want to get ridiculed again. So when they finally began to trust me, they started telling me the paranormal, quantum, metaphysical events they had also experienced, which they would never talk about ever again because everybody made fun of them, you know, including other researchers and investigators when they tried to tell them their stories. I believed everything they told. By then I had experienced some bizarre paranormal quantum type events that are inexplicable by ape only means. And that's where I got my 5 books. Some incredible tales.
Tell me some of the experiences that you've had.
Well, the one that got me on the trail, I led my first expedition, and I sent a group of about 7 or 8 people to make a long, about 1.5 mile, 2 mile circle, come back in the dark and come back and join us while we were waiting for them. Well, they got lost. We had bad radio reception because we were down in a holler. They got lost. They weren't sure where they were. They were scared out of their minds. Anyway, I'm the only guy that had a thermal at the time, so I'm watching through the woods. Said everybody has to be quiet. These people are lost. The radios aren't working. I'm watching through the woods for a heat signature so I could see if they were coming. Sure enough, I'm starting to see a heat signature. Well, when it comes around the bend, it's not my group. It's a Sasquatch. I'm freaking, and when I saw it, I went, I gasped. And we were sitting in radio silence. We were sitting dead quiet in the dark, 11 o'clock, midnight, somewhere in the middle of the Missouri woods. And it didn't know we were there. It took one step. When I gasped, when I saw it, it vanished. It exploded in this big ball of light. I was seeing spots in front of my eyes, like a flash bulb had gone off in front of my face. I couldn't see anything. I was blinded, and it was gone. But I saw the silhouette. I saw it on my thermal. It was absolutely a Sasquatch. So I was brought into this by the very closed-minded ape-only people, and they were really hateful and disrespectful if you believed anything other than they were a dumb ape. And so at that moment in my life, I took the left fork instead of the right fork. I never looked back. And I've been paranormal, quantum involved. They come to me in my dreams. I know that sounds weird, but I see them. I speak with them. I've had numerous sightings. My wife has been present when I had some of this weird, bizarre stuff going on. And she was a reluctant witness, as she was to my abduction. I baptized her on both fields, and she wasn't real happy about it, but she couldn't argue that this was real and this is real and this is real, because she was there. she experienced she saw me going through all my stuff. So she couldn't argue, even though she wanted to. She was convinced that there's something else going on besides dumb apes.
So what did this Sasquatch look like to you?
Well, it was just a heat signature, mind you, because that's all I saw. But it was, we went back and reenacted it the next day, and it was 7.5, 8 foot tall. It was about 75 feet away from us when it came through the clearing. And that's all it was, but it was big, it was bulky. It was much bulkier than I thought. It was a big, fat one, big, hardy one. It was, massive in every sense, bigger than I had ever experienced, although I was just seeing a heat signature, a trail cam.
Right, yeah.
So it was massive. And it could do the things that a lot of my friends were telling me that it could do. And I got to see it.
Such as?
Disappear. They have confused me before. I took my wife to my researcher. This area that I had led the expedition on became my permanent research area here in Missouri, Mark Twain National Forest. All kinds of bizarre stuff. But they made me forget. I took my wife to my area and we backed my SUV up to this steel gate. You couldn't walk down this trench any longer because too many people were getting trapped. So I backed up to it and we were walking down there about halfway down. And this was about 10 o'clock at night. My wife is freaking out already. She's getting the heebie-jeebies. She's getting the vibe. Oh my God, get me out of here. This is creeping me out. I can't do this. She was freaking out. She was feeling their presence because they live in this area. They live in this one particular glen. And so I said, look, just come with me. We're almost down to where we're going to go. We're just going down here to the bottom of the gully. I shine my light down. And there was my car at the end of the gully where it could not possibly be. I said, how'd my car get down there? And she's looking at me. She's going, are you nuts? It's 11 o'clock at night. Your car is back up by the fence. I shined my light back up there where I parked. It wasn't there. I said, my car's not there. She goes, yes, it is. Look at it. You're looking right at it. You're shining your light on it. No, it's gone. It's down here. And I shine it back down to the bottom of the ravine. And there it was. I was seeing it. And this went on for 3 or 4, minutes. And she's freaking out. And I finally went, oh, my car is back up there. It is where it was. I shined it back down and it wasn't where I thought I saw it. They had put in they were messing with my head. They were making me see something that was not possible to be seen. It was an exercise in them jacking with me. And then they gave it up and then let me go back to normal. But I was seeing something that could not be. It was like a mind speak or something of that nature. They had a picture in my head that the car was down at the bottom and it could not have been there. She witnessed that and she knew how sincere I was. I was freaking out and so was she. And so she'd been with me, later on in the hypnotism. She'd been with me on this and she's reluctantly on board. We'll just leave it that way.
Carter, we've got about a minute left. What's the message that you would like to leave with the listening audience of the X Zone radio show tonight? What's your message?
Well, these things happen to regular people. You have to have an open mind. You may or may not believe that Sasquatch is real. You may not believe that aliens are coming here and taking humans. You just have to have an open mind and consider it might be true. Considering is not believing. It just means you have enough of an open mind to consider the possibility. That's all I have to say to anybody, because there's going to be people that say, this is all a bunch of baloney. This is crazy. This guy's lying. He's full of junk. He's full of everything.
Carter, where can your books be bought?
I'm self-published, so I sell them out of my house. You can go to my email and email me at SQ Explorer, like in Sasquatch, SQ Explorer at gmail.com. You can order my books. I sign them. They're all full color, except my abduction book is just strictly transcripts of my recordings from my regressions.
Carter, I want to thank you ever so much for coming on the show. And I would love to have you back on the show to continue this fascinating conversation with you. So until then, take care of yourself, my friend.
You too, Rob. I appreciate the time. This is a blast.
Nice talking to you, my friend. And
You too, sir.
take care of yourself if you're abducted again.
I shall. I'll tell them where you live. They'll come get you
Sure.
next.
I'd love it. We'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, unless you're one of the stations who do not carry the third hour.
Let's see what's there. Flying saucers, aliens.